All right, you two, we mean business.
In the Old West, bank robberies followed a certain script.
Shut up. And we'll stick to our plan. You take the money and we'll lead them out of town.
The bad guys had a gun, got away with the cash, but in the New West, criminals have strayed from the script. The modern revision, they are targeting tiny banks with all of the cash, but no teller, and too often, no security, except for that camera. Here in Dallas, detectives noticed that last year, as soon as the sun went down, someone was trying to rip off an ATM. It was happening nearly every night.
At the time, the ATMs were pretty easy targets for them to get with not a lot of risk of getting caught.
This was typical. Crooks use a truck, usually stolen, to smash through the front of a gas station. They load the ATM on the back of the pickup, and they're gone. Sometimes they'd wrap the ATM in a chain and drag it out of the store. Occasionally, someone would even steal construction equipment to scoop up the ATM right outside the bank. It's a scene repeated all across the country. In Lake Charles, Louisiana, thieves drove right through the front door of a Target store. At first, they couldn't get the chain around the machine. When they finally did, they ripped it in half, but got away with the good stuff. In Mobile, Alabama, the van came through the front of the Walgreens. The two crooks got out and struggled with the ATM a bit, but managed to get it into the side of the van. It's relatively easy money, or at least it was.
Businesses have been working hard to make it harder on the criminals to get to the ATM. Has that worked?
Absolutely. Here it has. Most of them this year have been unsuccessful. The way they used to do it, they can't get them anymore.
What a difference a year makes. So far in Dallas in 2009, there have been only 5 successful ATM heists. What changed? For starters, police here formed an ATM task force to put dozens behind bars.
They started seeing cops everywhere they went after a while, so they got the message.
So did the stores. They started moving ATMs away from the front door and started bolting them to the ground or to the wall. The result? A series of criminal missteps, usually caught on tape.
Wow, that's a mess over your shoulder, Cynthia.
You have got to see it to believe it. Take a look behind me.
Just a few weeks ago, one bad guy got creative in Dallas. He stole a front-end loader from a construction site and drove it through the wall of a Walgreens. He did so much damage, he couldn't locate his valuable target.
He can't even find the ATM in the pile of stuff that he's destroyed.
He's buried the whole thing, so he's in there for maybe 10 seconds and gives up and runs away.
With nothing?
With nothing.
Behind that plywood is a whole lot of damage, or was?
Yes, over $125,000 damage to the building.
Detective Prettyman has worked business burglaries in Dallas for 3 decades. He says while ATM thefts here are way down, they are becoming more creative and more violent.
As they harden their target, the ATM thieves have stepped it up.
Here's one of his favorites. These crooks stole a box truck, backed it over the ATM at a bank drive-through. They knocked it off the base, but didn't realize it weighed more than 3,000 pounds.
It's just 2 guys pushing on it, and it kind of looked like a Three Stooges movie.
Complete with a close-up of a criminal who didn't get away with a cent. Same story for this group who seemed to have the perfect plan. 4 masked men ran into a CVS to case the joint. They located the ATM in the middle of the drugstore. They called the driver to give him the go-ahead. Look closely. You can see he was on the cell phone as he crashed through the front door. One problem. Before the pickup truck smashes the ATM, it hits the shampoo aisle. Suds spill all over the floor and under the tires.
The truck lost traction, and it just sat there and smoked up the place. And they had to abandon everything.
Head and shoulders stop the crime.
That's about right. That's about it.
If I'm a criminal, why do I want an ATM as opposed to walking into a bank with a gun or a note?
Well, if you go into a bank with a gun or a note and you get caught, you're going to prison for a long time.
Stealing an ATM versus robbing a bank, the penalties are night and day.
Yes. Yes. I mean, they're so far apart, they're not even close. You'd have to use a telephone long distance to talk back and forth.
And the bad guys know this?
Yes. Yeah. I've done interviews where, you know, I've talked to a guy and he's looked at me and he said, oh, it's a state jail. I don't care.
We've interviewed prisoners that said they quit selling drugs to do this because the risk of going to prison was less.
Police say the courts should treat ATM heists like their cousin crime, the bank robbery, a minimum of 10 years in federal prison.
The bad guys do not like dealing with the feds. They'll deal with us, but they don't like dealing with the federal.
Because it's hard time and there's no question about it.
It's day for day time. There's no good time, there's no early out.
So until the laws catch up to the criminals here in the New West, the cops will have to keep chasing them. Not exactly like the storybook endings of the Old West, where the good guys always get their man and right into the sunset. I'm Ryan Owens for Nightline in Dallas.